Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Obi-Wan Kenobi, episodes 5 and 6. So yeah, we're doing the final 2 episodes in one go. It was just the decision I decided to do. It's not like with other shows where it's like, oh yeah, this series, it's like, I feel like I should do the final 2 in one go. This one was just kind of a random decision. No real reasoning per se. But I am excited to get to this nonetheless, to see how this story ends. Now, we have had a lot of intrigue in this series, a couple different storylines going on. And it's going to be interesting to see how they all converge and how this ends. Because obviously we know there's not really going to be, or at least shouldn't be, a definitive ending to this. Because this continues on throughout the other Star Wars media and the movies and everything. And we know where this does end for both Obi-Wan and Anakin. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that here. This series has been great, though. I know a lot of Star Wars fans out there have been giving it flack, and I've talked about this before, but I don't get it. Like, even ignoring the fucking idiots out there who are just being racist against Reva's actor, even just ignoring them, there's some elitist Star Wars fans out there who are just whining that the series is not what they wanted it to be, basically. That the series hasn't lived up to their lofty expectations. And you can see this in a lot of different fandoms, of course. The elitists who think that they know best on what the series should be and how it should be shown and portrayed and everything, and oftentimes like to ruin it for others. They don't like the fact that some people enjoy this stuff. In this case, Obi-Wan. And these are the kinds of people who try to discredit it everywhere, try to review bomb it, stuff like that. Obi-Wan is, it's really good. It feels like Star Wars. It feels like the movies. Ewan McGregor is doing a great job. Reva's actor is doing a great job. I can't remember her name. Everyone really is doing a great job. The story is good. The effects are good. I really don't have any issues with it. And I'm a much more casual Star Wars fan, where I'm one of those people who mainly sticks to the movies because the extended media doesn't really do anything for me. It doesn't feel like the movies feel in terms of content. And in that regard, that's, I guess, the big reason I enjoy this so much. Because it feels like the movies. It feels like I'm going into a Star Wars film. Which, in my opinion, is the best Star Wars content by a mile, so this is what I would want, and yes, what I would expect from a series that is directly connected to the films. And yes, to some of the extended media too. Obi-Wan's appeared in that, but mostly the films is the big kicker, because I mean it's same actors and all as well. Um, so since I obviously waited until episode 6 came out, I do know a couple things about episode 5. Not like big major things, but I do know that we finally get to see um, God, what is his name? Hayden Christensen. We finally actually get to see him performing. I do know that, and I do know that Reva is a notable part of episode 5, and that's only because I know, and I know those things because I had to wait a week basically to do these last two together. So there are things I just was unable to avoid, and at this point, I think that's just what's gonna happen. Now, obviously, this means that this is going to be over after this, so what is going to fill this slot? Well, as you know, for Tuesdays and Thursdays, we've been doing double double reactions in each slot for those 2 days. And we are not quite cutting it back yet. Only because I do want to get to something right away, and this is just the slot that's opening up. Once The Boys ends, then the Tuesday slot will move back down to 1. But for now, while this ends, we are going to be bringing something in. It's going to be a lot, like, it's going to be a shorter show, so you don't have to worry about that. But I'll talk about that in the afterthoughts more. But there is one other thing I want to talk about here real quick before we begin. With this, with what has been going on the channel, with all the pre-recording, with having 2 days of the week where we have 2 shows each on those days, I have been like mulling around the idea once again of possibly going off schedule. Like basically having it so that there's no set schedule for the week and we just react to a few shows at a time and get to episodes when we want to get to them, unless it's obviously currently airing, in which case it would still be once a week. But there are very heavy pros and cons to this. Obviously, one thing to note is I would not be able to do as many shows at a time, probably, because it would be very hard to keep track of. Or at least harder. It would take certain pressures off, but it would add other pressures at the same time. And the biggest problem, and this has happened before when I've done no schedule, is that if I did do this, there might be some shows that I react to more often, and while other shows end up getting kind of the shaft because of it. And I don't want to leave certain shows like waiting for another reaction, another episode reaction for like weeks or something. So while I've been mulling it around in my head, it's like it's probably not going to end up happening. It's probably just something I've been thinking about because of having 2 extra shows a week, one for the Tuesday and Thursday slots and all. It's been taking a little bit of a toll on me. It has. It hasn't been too much to where it's causing me detriment in recording or anything, because I'm still pretty well ahead in pre-recording and all. I mean, I'm recording this like weeks ahead of when you're actually a couple weeks ahead of when you're actually seeing it, so that should tell you something. But yeah, It's just because there is more on the schedule and all, it is taking a little bit out of me. Now, granted, that will help once I finish Obi-Wan. And go to a shorter show. That will help. And then once the boys and Miss Marvel end up finishing and all, it's like it's going to get to that point where it's going to feel a lot better again. It's just at the moment, because of the longer shows and everything, and just everything else, it's starting to feel like it's just a bit much. And the fact that we've been doing this for weeks now, and it's only starting to feel like it's a bit much, is impressive, honestly. But I think we'll be able to get through it. I think we will. It shouldn't be much of an issue. Because, like I said, I'm well ahead in pre-recording. So even if I took, like, some days off or whatnot, I'd still be good. The only thing it would really cause trouble with is I'd have to avoid spoilers a little more for certain things if I did that. But we'll be good, I'm sure. I think also, like, the week I'm recording this, there's this, like, massive heat wave. And I think that's also just really weighing on me because I don't do well with heat. It makes me just feel really sluggish and just unmotivated in and of itself. So that might be doing it. Granted, I'm mostly inside where there's air. But at the same time, it's like, still, there's only so much I can do in here. And, like, anytime I open the door to get mail or let the dog outside or anything, I will get that blast of heat, and it's just like, I don't know. You get what I mean, hopefully. It's just I'm not a fan of extreme temperatures really one way or the other. So, yeah, that could be leading to this as well. Either way, though, we are going to get on with these episodes of Obi-Wan. Excuse me. And hope for the best. See what we got in store. This is going to be a longer reaction, obviously. Probably just basic movie length, I guess you could say. But, I'm definitely interested to see what they do here and how they close this out. But yeah, let's do it. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. And there we have it. The finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And yeah, fuck all the haters. This was amazing. And yes, maybe I'm a little biased because Obi-Wan's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Right up there with Leia, who also has a major part in this. But just in terms of the writing, the character work, both new and old characters, I just thought this was fantastic. It looks visually stunning. Even the parts that are just like all sand and stuff, like on Tatooine and all, it still looks good. It looks like Star Wars. All the creatures we see are great. All the just cool action scenes and everything. The character arcs we see in this, like especially from Reva. I looked up the actress's name, Moses Ingram. Like, all the kudos to her. Like, fuck any cunts out there bitching about racist bullshit. Like Ewan McGregor himself said, those are no true fans. Anyone bitching like with racist, just they're not fans of Star Wars. That's bullshit. And it pisses me off. And she did such an amazing job. She was such a great character, such a great actress. She did fantastic. And we had a lot of other great stuff throughout this series as well. And I think they've said that there might be a second season. So that could be interesting. Definitely would have a different story arc to work with. But I really love this. I love how it's 10 years after the events of episode 3, and we have just all this pain and guilt and depression that Obi-Wan is going through. He's in hiding. He's just kind of discarded who he used to be. And he's eventually drawn back in thanks to Princess Leia being kidnapped by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but mainly by Reva. Yeah, it's a good, solid plot. It brings back plenty of legacy characters, introduces some great new ones, brings in some that were like in animated form and all before, but now we get to see them in live action. A lot of great moments for sure. In these 2 episodes specifically, it closed out the series well. It redeemed Reva, and it really handled things, I think, in the right way. Having Obi-Wan lose the first duel against Vader here in these episodes. Technically, he lost another duel with him before, but you know. Having him lose the first one and then like come back for a second round and win that one quite decisively. It worked, I feel, because of how Obi-Wan is kind of, you know, learning to have that hope again and be himself and come to terms with what happened. He realizes that the Anakin he knew and loved is dead. That only Darth Vader remains at this point. And again, as I said in the reaction, luckily we do know that Anakin returns eventually. That he turns away from the dark side and turns against Palpatine. We do know that eventually does occur. And it ends in his death, but he dies not as Darth Vader, as Anakin Skywalker, and that's the important part. So we do know he does eventually turn away from the dark side and see the lights once again. But the way they handle this, showing how lost in the dark side he is, just seeing and hearing the rage in Hayden Christensen's performance there, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenally done. I also just love the visual of the helmet being like having that cut in it, that huge gash in it, so you can see part of his face. I love that concept. That is so well done. And getting to hear like the mix of Hayden Christensen's voice and the Darth Vader voice from James Earl Jones, like having that mix of that, like with the voice changer kind of like faltering and all, that was so good. That was so good. I loved it. And I almost chose for the thumbnail to use the visual of Vader with the mask broken and all, because that was such a cool visual. But I did go for Obi-Wan in the end because it made more sense. I almost went with Obi-Wan laughing, but I wanted to go with the hello there scene. It's kind of the culmination of everything. The fact it kind of like showcases him as like he's Obi-Wan again. And even though we know he does take the guise of Ben again in the future, at this point he's Obi-Wan again. And that's why I chose that. And I'm really surprised that Reva survived. Like, I genuinely wonder, like, what's gonna happen with her next? Like, what is she going to do? I want more for her story. Like, hell, let's have that for another series. Maybe having her like come across people she wronged in the past and has to make amends for that or stuff like that. Because her story was just really good in this, and I'm really glad that they created her for this series. One of the younglings that Anakin was trying to kill, and she was the only survivor, having faked her death, lying with the bodies of her friends, of her dead friends. She escaped, kind of wound out in the gutters, apparently, according to what they said, and was eventually recruited by Vader and the Inquisitors. She used her station to get close to Vader because she knew who he was. And she wanted revenge on him. She was never actually working for him. She was just playing the long game. And yeah, again, you know she did terrible things while doing so. You know she brought in people that were killed. You know she did. And I think the only... I said in the reaction, I still think the only person we ever saw her actually kill, which we know she didn't actually kill him, but was the Grand Inquisitor. Like, the one Jedi who was, like, hung up for everyone to see, the one from the first couple episodes, I think. Maybe just the first one. Actually, it might have just been episode 1, yeah. We don't know that Reva was the one who killed him. We don't know that. We have no evidence of that. We can maybe assume, but we don't know that. And I don't think we've actually seen her kill anyone else, right? Like, everyone else that she faces, I think she just defeats. I don't think we see her actually kill them. It's interesting. And I wonder if she just has never actually killed anyone herself. But, like, acted so gung-ho and stuff just to try and, like, throw the others off of her in that way. Unfortunately, Vader always knew. Unfortunately, he knew from the very beginning who she was. So he was playing the long game in that regard as well. Like, even the entire thing about, like, naming her Grand Inquisitor, like, he knew at that point that the Grand Inquisitor was alive. He did that specifically to fuck with her. Like, and the thing is, that's totally something he would do. Because as I said in the reaction, Darth Vader has always been an absolute brat. Like, even in the original trilogy, if you go back and watch it, he's a dick. And he's a ridiculous dick, too. It's not just that he's mean or, like, you know, aggressive or bad. It's that he's a whiny little bitch. He always was. And so, like, you see how Hayden Christensen portrays him in the prequel trilogy, and a lot of people would always complain about him being a whiny little bitch. It's like, no, that's how he's supposed to be. That's who his character has always been. That's who Darth Vader was in the original trilogy. People were just focusing only on, like, the intimidating, force powerful Sith Lord. That's all they ever focused on with Vader in the original. But if you actually paid attention, he was still a whiny little bitch. He was still just completely like that. So I think Hayden Christensen actually pulled that off really well in the prequel trilogy, and we got to see it more here again in this series. Yeah, I don't see all the complaints that I've heard about this series. Like some people have even said like I think episode 4 I think people said was boring, 3 or 4. And it's like, how? Where are you finding any of these episodes boring? How are you finding any of this boring? This is all very exciting and interesting and great. And then again, it feels like the movies. It feels like this is a natural extension of the movies, which I cannot say for any other extended series I've seen, extended universe series that I've seen. Granted, I haven't seen like Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian or anything, but like I wouldn't even say that for the Clone Wars, and I liked the Clone Wars series. That's actually something I have seen, but like I wouldn't say that for Rebels at all. Rebels, in my opinion, does not feel like the movies at all, or pretty much anything else outside of the movies. And hell, even like one of the movies themselves, Solo, I would say doesn't feel like the rest of the movies at all. But then you have this, and it's just like, this just feels like a natural extension. Like, this kind of feels like its own movie in a way. Just very specifically focused on a few characters rather than kind of everything. It feels like it's directly following the events of episode 3, even with it being 10 years later. It feels like it's a direct follow-up. And it kind of is. So it works. The tone, the pacing, everything feels right here. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed this. And of course you have the performances. I already mentioned Moses Ingram, but Hayden Christensen reprised his role after, like, what, 2 decades? Almost 2 decades? And he did it very fucking well. And of course, Ewan McGregor, like, he can do no wrong. I mean, the dude is an amazing actor. Like, I've talked about this, like, when I reacted to, like, Doctor Sleep and stuff, and Harley Quinn, and The Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. That's what it is. But like anything that I've seen him in, post Star Wars and everything, has just been, he's just always amazing. And even more around that same time, like I think Moulin Rouge came out around that same time. Even that's great. And he's amazing in it. He's just a phenomenal actor. And also, even still nowadays, he's still very fucking hot. Like, no, even in here, even with the like disheveled hair and beard and everything, like he's still hot. Like, dude can still get it. But yeah, like everyone in this was great. Even the minor characters, like even Flea did very well in this. Just everyone really nailed their performances. The visuals, once again, were fantastic. This is, again, it was just that good. And it almost makes me want to check out The Mandalorian, because that's gotten so much praise and attention. And there's a lot of reasons I would check it out. But there's also a couple reasons that do still give me pause, such as Gina Carano. It's just like, I really despise her, you know, with what she said and done. And I mean, she was fired from it too, so it's clear that what she said and did was not to be taken lightly by anyone, even the people working on the show. But still, seeing her, like, especially if her character is supposed to be good, and I think her character is supposed to be a good guy, seeing her in the series might irritate me a bit. I don't know. I mean, again, there's a lot about it that probably would be entertaining. I know they have a digitally created young Luke in it. I know that Pedro Pascal is fantastic in it, but Pedro Pascal is another actor who's just really great pretty much every time. It's just gonna kind of have to depend on if I think I'll be in the right mindset for it at some point. Or rather, if I think that I can handle seeing Gina Carano without getting too upset, basically. And I think Bill Burr is in it as well, and he's kind of a shitbag too. But Gina Carano pisses me off just quite a bit more, personally. But yeah, I don't know. With the quality of this, it just, like I said, it kind of makes me almost want to check it out. But I think for the time being, unless someone donated for it, I think I'm going to hold off on it for now. Though if someone donated for it, that would be a different story. But either way, now, as I said in the pre-thoughts, we are going to be replacing this. We're not going to be bringing the Tuesday slot down to one reaction until The Boys ends. And that's because I want to get to something right away, as I said. And that is The Ghost and Molly McGee. I've talked about plenty on the channel and in various videos how upset I was when they just put it on another random hiatus when Amphibia and Owl House returned. Because there was no reason they couldn't have aired it at the same time. And you know I'll talk about that again, but just leaving that off here, I'm just really excited for more. I really love the series, and so I don't want to wait. In fact, I've already been pre-recording it. I've already been pre-recording it as of the point where I'm pre-recording this. So, yeah. You can expect that to come as quickly as possible. Well, next week as of when you're seeing this. But yeah. So that is what I'm going to be putting in this slot. So it's just going to be taking over from Obi-Wan. And I'm excited to get to it. So yeah. Well, to get to more at this point, because as I said, I've already been pre-recording for it. But yeah. Either way, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these final 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and what did you think of the series in general? Did you love it as much as I did, or are you more on the fence with it? Or do you not like it, for whatever reason? And mind you, I said in this reaction, fuck everyone who doesn't like this. You know I'm joking. I don't mean it. If you don't like this, and you genuinely just don't like it, and you're not just saying that to be a contrarian asshole. If you genuinely don't like it for whatever reason, that's perfectly allowed. You're perfectly fine. I'm just saying there are some people out there who are just like hating on things just to hate on them, just to be contrarian assholes. Or some people just being racist. Because that's stupidly a thing still in 2022. But, yeah, if you just genuinely didn't like it for whatever reason and have, like, real legitimate reasons for that, that's fine. No problem. You don't have to like everything that I like. I want to make that clear. But I'd love to hear your thoughts no matter what down in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.